think this is a lovely time to be having a webinar, because we worked with the Cities of Sanctuary to develop a Library of Sanctuary resource pack, and we were about to launch it in April 2020, just as the everything locked down, and we didn't do it. So we really wanted to pick it up again and really promote it this year. And I think it just became suddenly even more important than ever with the arrival of the Afghan refugees, and I know that the amazing work that libraries have been doing to support them. So we thought it was really important that we actually have this webinar now to really talk about the toolkit and to hear from some libraries as well about what they've been doing. Sadly, Stephanie from Kirklees Library isn't here because she's unwell, but I do believe there are some representatives from Kirklees Libraries here. So, do tell us about what you've been doing in Kirklees. If you want to stick anything in the chat, we'll get you to share that if you want to. But it's my pleasure now to hand over to Ashley Beckett from the City of Sanctuary, who's going to just introduce the City of Sanctuary and the Libraries of Sanctuary programme to us. So over to you, Ashley.
Yeah, hi everyone. Let me get my PowerPoint up here really quickly. Cool. All right, so I guess I'm Ashley Beckett. I'm the City of Sanctuary Libraries lead, as well as arts, and specifically the regional coordinator for London. So those are all the different hats I wear. So feel free, at the end of the PowerPoint's my email. So feel free to reach out to me with any questions or anything like that. And kind of hold on to your seats, because I'm going to try to run through quite a bit of information quickly, and we'll share the slides afterwards. So most everything I'm saying is already on the slides. So after the presentation, you'll be able to read through it, as well as our website is quite robust in information, and we'll share some links to get more information through that. So just to start with a little introduction, City of Sanctuary UK is a UK-wide movement, and we're all about welcome and belonging. And we do this through a couple different approaches. We have local community groups that create cultures of welcome and share that all around the UK and Ireland, as well as our stream work, which I'll speak more about later as I transition into the award. But that is work that looks at different mainstream avenues such as arts, libraries, colleges, businesses, local authority, and health. So as I mentioned, it's an organization. We like to say it's an organization, multiple networks, and a movement. So as an organization, we're quite small but powerful. There's about 12 part-time staff placed all over the UK that work on everything from local authorities to supporting local groups, and like me, work on streams like libraries or schools or things like that. We have different types of networks, everything from refugee support networks to our streams of sanctuary, which libraries is one of those. And then we participate and belong to a greater movement that's about creating welcome and belonging all across the UK for everyone, whether they're British or fleeing conflict or whatever their circumstances may be. So this is quite dense. It's our theory of change, and kind of the takeaways from it is we are a contact theory-based organization. So we believe in building change through personal contact and building relationships. We engage with mainstream outside of the refugee asylum sector through our streams, which are everything from libraries to local authority to like the CCG to anything you can think of. We probably have worked with a organization that wants to support that. And we use our theory of change to apply our values and principles.
I've spoken to Sharon and she said she's happy to do the referral to physio.
Sorry, could everyone mute themselves apart from Ashley, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so our values and principles, and most importantly, our principle of inspiration, that we hope through our work to inspire positive change and social change around the UK. And what we actually do is we provide support, resources, and networking opportunities. So as you'll see with the resource pack that John will present, that's a resource that provides a lot of information on how to help libraries be places of welcome and supporting the greater community of people with lived experience in asylum seeking. And then we also have our stream work, and we use that to involve other professions and other interests in the work of creating welcome. Let me just get this there. So the sanctuary work is, or the stream work is how we focus on our award system. And basically the reasons for the sanctuary award tools are they engage the public in a way different than working within the refugee sector, and they recognize, celebrate, and share good practices. And the core to the awards is our methodology to learn, embed, and share. And those are kind of our key words to every stream. Everything we do is first learning the context and specifically from people with lived experience, and then embedding that work into the institution in which we're working with, and then sharing that with the greater public. So why is this so important? Well, in the global context, there's, as at this point of this slide's creation, 82 million forced displaced. We constantly hear about stories of people on the move. We heard through the COP26 that climate refugees may be the next wave. We've recently had the Afghan resettlement process. And so there's just a lot of people on the move for a lot of different reasons. Most of them are quite tragic. And so the point is to make people feel welcome in the UK. As some may know, there's a policy of a hostile environment right now within the British government that organizations like City of Sanctuary are working to promote welcome in opposition to these policies. And then on the local level, we know the communities are the ones that are actually interfacing with new arrivals. And so we hope to create welcome within the local communities, which is why libraries are such a great place for this, because that's one of the lasting community hubs, I would say, in communities around the world. And then lastly, to promote individual development through relationships and relationship building and making people feel welcome, especially people that are just arriving from conflict zones. So yes, just to run through and show you the breadth in which we have streams. You can see here's a whole list of streams. And like I said, there's ranging from museums and art galleries and theaters and theater companies, colleges and universities. I think the numbers that we just saw, there's over 300 schools around the UK that are schools of sanctuary, and 24 universities. And we've recently started working with organizations like Oxfam to make their charity shops of sanctuary. So as you can see, it's a growing way to create welcome within the communities. Okay, so to touch kind of on what we see as the benefits of being a library of sanctuary, it is a good way to extend the reach of the library, as our resource pack will show that there's a lot of different ways to entice exciting programming to create welcome within the community that can go beyond just asylum seekers to anybody within the community, as well as strengthening partnerships with other organizations within the community, especially organizations that are facing the asylum or refugee sector, such as Refugee Council, Amnesty, Red Cross, and such organizations. It's as we all know, the library is a community hub, and it kind of reaffirms that as it being a library of sanctuary or a library of welcome. And yeah, gaining recognition with elected officials that the community is a welcoming place is also a great thing that we've seen, especially in some communities that want to push their local authority to have a more open or welcome asylum policy, being able to tell them that there's multiple schools and the libraries and things like that that are welcoming has helped in that argument. Okay, so we'll go back now and talk about what it actually means to become a library of sanctuary, and touching back on the learn, embed, and share. So this is just kind of what I mentioned before. You learn about what it means to be seeking asylum. We promote that through talking to people with lived experience of seeking asylum, as well as the partners within the community. You can do that through forums like this, also visiting other libraries that have programming, and then embedding that programming within your procedures and policies, the concept of welcome, safety, and inclusion. And then the last would be to share that with your greater network and the community. And then I'll now go into a little bit of what that actually looks like. So on a practical sense, that's training staff on issues around asylum seeking, like I mentioned, consulting and learning from people with lived experience in seeking sanctuary and partners. And then you can embed that through designating staff that focuses on the issue, creating welcome, a shared environment for asylum seekers, developing a 3-year plan of programming that creates welcome, and engaging in the wider community. And this embedding programming can be things like Refugee Week, celebrations, story time with kids on books of creating welcome. And we have a lot of those types of books. We have resources that list those, but I'm sure most of you have ideas of what books are great at creating welcome on every reading level. I know a lot of libraries also do English as a second language courses and things like that. And then sharing it is displays for welcome, participating in forums and things like that. And so the basics of applying is you would first contact your local group or regional coordinator. And when you receive these PowerPoints, these links will take you to those lists, or you can just email me and I can put you in touch with who that would be. We then ask libraries or any organization to pledge their commitment to working towards a place of welcome and the Sanctuary Award, which is an organizational pledge that's on our website, and the link will take you there. It's pretty straightforward. And then you can work with your local group, regional coordinator, or myself to come up with your plan for learn, embed, and share. And we're happy to work through that with you with the resource pack and things like that. And then you would submit your application. And then the process that happens after you submit is we would put together a small assessment team that would look over your application and then have a little panel with you where we go over it and discuss the things that you're doing and what your plan is and things like that. And so one question that comes up quite a bit is, can you apply for multiple libraries? And the answer is yes. So we've had some head librarians that want to apply for the whole library system in their borough or things like that. And it's possible. And how you can apply for that is you would just do the application and then list your branches. And all the branches can have different programming depending on their context and their size. So a small branch in a rural area that actually doesn't have people with lived experience isn't going to have the programming to support and welcome them, but they can have a book collection that creates welcome, and they can train their staff, and they can have a Refugee Week display without much effort for those smaller libraries, whereas a branch that's in a community that has a lot of asylum seekers could do a more robust programming. So that's pretty much it for me. The frequently asked questions that I like to address is there's no application fees, although donations are welcome. As I said, we're a small organization. And then it's for libraries of all size, and we're quite flexible with what the application looks like. There's not a lot of structure and criteria because we really want libraries to own it and make it what works for them within the context of their community. And then the award lasts for 3 years. And then there's a reaccreditation process where we check back in with you and see how your plans have gone and what you're planning to do in the future. And then to just keep in mind, we know that most libraries were closed during COVID, or they were just doing this kind of like order and receive books type system. So we're quite flexible with how your past has gone and are quite interested in talking about what you're planning to do and things like that. And so I'll leave it there with my contacts. The libraries at the libraries.cityofsanctuary.org has tons of resources. And then this link, when you get the slides, is a link to sign up for the mailing list that John, who will be speaking next, manages, that gives a lot of resources and information about Libraries of Sanctuary. Yeah, so thanks. And I think we'll do questions later or now, I'm not sure.
You need to unmute, Sarah.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks very much, Ashley. I know that Ashley has to leave a bit early, so I don't know if anyone's got any specific questions for Ashley now, although we will have Colleen later on to answer any questions that if you haven't got any questions now. Oh, Debbie's just asked, Ashley, do you provide staff training?
We do some workshops and trainings, but our website also has quite a few videos of past workshops that we usually direct people to. But I know also there's some government resources within local authorities on the asylum process and things like that. So we can help with finding those resources. Thank
you. And John Dolan's asked, is City of Sanctuary involved in any of the campaigns opposing nationality and borders bills?
Yeah, the City of Sanctuary is working with a lot of the different partner organizations on the Together with Refugees campaign, which has been working against the nationality and borders bill, as well as supporting some of our local authorities stream does a lot of work with counselors and MPs on what the bill means and what we would like to see changed about it. Yeah.
All right. So there's various comments that I'm picking up here. So Amina's said, I've repeatedly asked for Cities of Sanctuary to refrain from using asylum seekers rather than asylum applicants, to bring it on a level with applying for a driving license, which is just as much as right. I had that certificate changed to reflect that.
Yeah, that's understandable. Also, apologies if I misspoke.
We do prefer to use the term people with lived experience of seeking asylum, but an asylum seekers is the sort of legal term. We have a document called Use of Language, which encourages people to use the term people seeking asylum or people seeking sanctuary, rather than defining people by their by their legal term or by their immigration status, because of course they are people first. And that document is linked in the resource pack. It's called Guide to Use of Language. And there's also an explanation in the resource pack about use of language and terms that you can use.
Thank you, Colleen. And I'll stop the questions there, but we'll save the questions for the end, because I want to make sure we don't miss any of the other speakers. So thank you for the questions. There's loads of questions there, which is brilliant, and I'll try and capture as many as I can at the end of the session. But just to say a huge thank you to Ashley for coming and speaking today. I know that Ashley's in the midst of a COVID crisis, as many people are, I know. So I really appreciate Ashley coming today. So pass on thanks to her. And I'd love now to pass over to John Vincent. And many of you will know and recognise John's name for many years of working with libraries, including managing the network. And John's been working on the Libraries of Sanctuary toolkit for some time now. So over to you, John.
Thanks, Sarah. And I'm going to nervously, sorry, you don't need to know this, but this is the first time I've actually done screen sharing. So I'm giving myself a pat on the back here already. Right, I've only got a tiny presentation, so it's not going to be a very long talk to you at all. What I wanted to do was to give you a taste of the pack itself. So I'm just going to hopefully move on. Sorry, I might need to ask Robert's help. I'm stuck. How do I move the slides on? Or anybody?
Hi, John. You should just be able to hit the sort of return button. That might help.
That's what I thought I was doing. Yeah. Oh, there it goes. Okay. It wouldn't do it, but it is now. That must be your magic touch, Robert. Thank you. Okay. So I only want to very quickly talk about the background to the resource pack, and then I want to spend more time looking at the pack itself. So as many of you will know, the UK's first Library of Sanctuary was Thimble Mill Library in Sandwell. Libraries Connected West Midlands wanted to build on the success that Thimble Mill had had. It was awarded a Library of Sanctuary status in 2017. Group to look at how this could be widened out, not only in the region, but across the UK. And so set up a working group to look at that, and also to develop the idea of a resource pack that would support people who wanted to see if their libraries could become libraries of sanctuary. I know I hate doing this because I always miss somebody out, but I think I've got everybody. So the working group included Birmingham Libraries, Coventry Libraries, Greater Manchester, the Arts Council, Libraries Connected, City of Sanctuary, Barry Clark, the former borough librarian of Sandwell, and John Dolan, who we know is here. And there is a couple of other contacts. I know Debbie Boulding's here, for example, and Colleen and Sarah were also on the working group. And what we did was we spent some time looking at practical needs that libraries had, but weaving into those the kind of principles about City of Sanctuary and the way it works that you've just heard from Ashley and that Colleen has reiterated. And so between all of us, we put together a resource pack, which we tried out, we floated with people, we got it tested, we had lots of comments back. I was commissioned to actually write it, but although I did the putting together, the pack is completely a collaborative effort. So it's an effort obviously from all those I've just mentioned, but also from the mass of people in libraries across the UK who contributed huge case studies, a few words here and there, examples of the things they're doing. And it's become something that reflects, I think, very well what public libraries in the UK currently offer. As Sarah said in her introduction, we were intending to launch beginning of last year, then it was going to be June last year. In the end, we've now are launching. We've also produced a new edition, which came out in October. The link's coming up in a minute. You'll be able to see it online and download it if you want to, but there are also hard copies available from the City of Sanctuary Library of Sanctuary website. So do look at those if you actually want a hard copy too. So this is it. This is the look of the resource pack. There's the web link there that you can get to see it directly. Well, I'm going to show it to you in a minute. And you can also go onto the City of Sanctuary website, as I say, and find the hard copy. What I'm hoping when I show it to you in a minute, haven't already, you'll get an idea of the kinds of things it offers. The idea really is that it's not a resource pack that you start at page 1 and read right through to page 36. It's something that you can dip in and out of as you're processing through making the decision about whether you want to apply for Library of Sanctuary status, as you start your application, as you think through what you might do. And it also gives you lots of links to what other libraries are doing. So if you think, has anyone done anything with working with community groups around music, or has anyone, there are things in there that will actually point you in the right direction. Again, as Ashley said in her introduction, I think this is an absolutely critical moment for us to be doing this. Libraries are coming back in at different speeds, is probably the best way of putting it, from all the effects of lockdown. Some library services certainly are suffering in terms of the reductions or likely reductions in expenditure. And it's a big moment for us to say that we have a critical role to play in all sorts of areas. And I think around offering a welcome and offering sanctuary is a big one. As Ashley said, the climate generally in the UK is quite hard, he said carefully and not getting too political. It's quite hard for new arrivals altogether, but particularly for people who are seeking sanctuary here. It's something around the hostile environment, the fact that the kind of levels of hostility, we've seen this particularly post-Brexit, the levels of hostility have risen to all sorts of people who are seen as, I'm going to use heavy air quotes, not from here. Although they are from here, but that's a perception. Just as we've seen post-COVID, increases of hostility toward people who are from the East, people who are Chinese, for example. So it's something where we have a big role to play in ensuring that there is community cohesion, that we provide a welcome, and we provide information that gives something of the reality about what people have faced trying to get here, the sorts of things that they need from us and what they can look at. And we can also share the experiences and the learning that new arrivals have brought with them. Very quick point, and then I'll move on to the pack itself. So I'm currently writing a book for Silip's Facet Publishing, and it's going to be looking at the responses of all kinds libraries to new arrivals. I've got masses of examples from public libraries. I've got some examples from school and college libraries, but I'm lacking anything else. So I'm really putting out, I know, primarily people here are going to be from public libraries, but if there are any colleagues that you can nudge who might work in other sectors, it would be brilliant to hear from you. And I'm always interested in looking at other examples of what public libraries do too. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me and send me examples of what they're doing, I've got lots from the library services that have already been awarded sanctuary status, but I'm really interested in any examples from anybody else. And I've got about 6 weeks, I think, before I should get my manuscript in. So if you do want to get in touch with me, please do. And there's my details, so john@nada.org.uk. Okay,
John,
I'm
sorry.
going to stop sharing this and see if yes.
John, sorry, you're slightly dropping out. So I wonder if you could turn off your camera. That might just help with the sound quality as well. I think it's just straining with everything. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, I'll have a go. There's the trouble with living along a lane with a very ropey internet connection that I can't always sustain anything much. Right, I'm going to stop this and see if I can share my pack. There we are. So I'm not going to take you through it page by page. That would be painful. I just wanted to give you a flavour of what's inside it, just in case if you haven't seen it. This is the kind of starting point for the sorts of things you could develop. So it gives introduction and background. Content, so it's about, as we've heard already, what is sanctuary? Why become a library of sanctuary? What are the benefits? Looking at the kinds of things that any of us could do to make our libraries more welcoming and more positive. It goes in more detail about the learn, embed and share that Ashley mentioned. it talks about how you might do some of those things, and then it gives some background information on seeking sanctuary. So a kind of global picture, talks about some of the definitions. So again, as we've had a brief conversation already, looking at terms we hear but may not actually be accurate terminology. And we also in here look at the library and information needs of new arrivals, look at ways of overcoming barriers, and then there are some resources which are both general guides to further information about seeking sanctuary, and then library related resources, and a list of organizations you can get in touch with, and a little bit about what they do with links. So I'm just going to run you, I'm not going to go through it all, I'm just going to run you through some bits just to show you. So there's the learn, embed and share section, tells you a little bit about how to get an award and what it does. And then the thing that I'm really impressed by is the contributions that I got from colleagues across the country. So people who actually sent me examples, case studies, things that they've done. So here on this page, for example, we've got something about the Kirklees Conversation Group. We've got work describing how Bolton Library Museum Services started out on this process. We've got examples of the Greater Manchester's work across all their libraries and how that led to getting sanctuary status. And then we've got some really quite in-depth looks at particular areas of work that you might want to take on and how you do that. So I'm not going to, as I say, I'm really not going to take you through the whole thing. It's just to give you an idea that it's packed with examples. So there are things, if you're not quite sure whether something would fit in, you can have a look at here and see. There's some brilliant illustrations that have come just to show you some of the work that's developed. We've got minimum criteria for getting the Sanctuary Award, a big piece on Coventry's conversation cafes, work from Wales, work in Wrexham, and so on. So I'm not going to do the whole thing with you. It's really just to give you a feel for how it works. I'll just go towards the end. We've got something on overcoming barriers. So we look at the sorts of barriers that a new arrival might face when they come to a library. So there might be personal and social barriers around lack of spoken English, for example. There may be perception and awareness barriers. We've got people in UK people who actually think libraries are not for us. There's a lot of work that we need to look at, and this pack begins to pull some of that together. We've got what I'd call environmental issues, barriers. So, where the library is, people may not recognise that's what it is. They may not know where it is. It may be cut off by a main road. There may not be much of a welcome, that kind of thing. And there are institutional barriers, which a lot of this work is about tackling. And there's some really brilliant examples here of the sorts of things that people have done. Some of them very straightforward, but they're just ways that make the library less barrier laden and make the library really welcoming, which is the most important thing. And then we've got resources. In the pack, you will have symbols here that will take you to the web link that links to those key organizations. And then the page I just wanted to show you, just so you get an idea of loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of people, all of whom have contributed to the pack. As I said, it's not, I put it together, but it wasn't mine in any sense whatsoever. And I'm just really grateful to all the people who helped me develop it. So there's the pack. It's available online, and there are hard copies available too. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, John, and thank you for sharing it. I think it's really nice when you sort of take people through it. It's really, really interesting to see how it's developed as well in the second iteration now. So
thank you.
Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to two of the libraries who are mentioned in the pack. And we're going to start with Nora Carr from Brighton and Hove Libraries, and she'll be followed by Charlotte. So I shall introduce you to Nora.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to be here with you today. And I will just say the resource pack is amazing. And I really wish it had been in existence when we were filling out our application form and trying to become a library of sanctuary. So I know that we will continue to use that resource pack, though. We'll be dipping into it because it's full of amazing ideas and good work, good practice to follow. So make sure you do download it or get information. So I've been asked to speak about our Library of Sanctuary experience and share some of the things that we've done and the impact that it's had on our service and the way we work. So I will say it's been a very rewarding and rich journey. It's brought up a lot of questions from the public, from other groups about why we're doing it. And it's made us question things ourselves in terms of who are our priorities, which communities do we want to work with. And we very much want to be working with people who are seeking sanctuary, and we have committed to that as a library service. And in fact, the heads of service are working on our library strategy for the next 4 years, and it's very much within that strategy. So that's a really positive thing for our staff and for the community in Brighton and Hove. It's really helped us to develop new partnerships, to make some really good friends and connections within the community, and to get a better understanding of what sanctuary seekers want and need, but also what they can offer us. They come with a lot of skills, a lot of experience, and that's something that is really important that we tap into that and support them to be able to give back to the community and to feel part of the community. And also it's given us a model of working with other people in the community or groups in the community that we want to work with, disadvantaged groups. So it's really kind of given us a good practice by becoming a library of sanctuary, and we can then use that way of working with other communities. And the projects and activities or the support that we've put in place on our journey to becoming a library of sanctuary has been very much through partnership work, teamwork, consultation with sanctuary seekers and organisations that work with them. And it's very much, it was very important for us to connect with City of Sanctuary on this journey, and also to connect with our local network, which is Sanctuary on Sea. And I think in the past we had engaged with refugees, asylum seekers. We had more really given them a platform in terms of cultural activities and sharing their experience with the public. But in 2016, there was more sanctuary seekers arriving in Brighton and Hove, particularly from Syria. And we decided as a service that we needed to be doing more than that. So that is around about 5 years of work in the development stage. So unfortunately, I can't share all of that with you. I'm sure you would fall asleep if I did. So what I'm going to do is show you a very short clip, which is on our Instagram page, and which gives you a flavour of some of the things that are happening in the libraries. And I would just like to let everybody know that we decided to just focus on our central library becoming a library of sanctuary rather than doing it citywide. However, our aspiration is for all of our libraries to become libraries of sanctuary. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you this clip, hopefully. I'm afraid it does finish very abruptly because it's normally on a loop, so my colleague has edited it so that it stops, so don't get a shock. Okay, so that was a short clip, so you can see the kinds of things that are happening. So I'm going to describe some of them in a little more detail. However, we did contribute, as John mentioned, to the resource pack, so there is more information in that. So we worked very closely in partnership with a group called the Network of International Women, and they set up the group to bring women together who were from different backgrounds and different cultures, and we supported them in giving them space to meet weekly. And the women have been coming into the library since 2017, apart from during lockdown. And they use that space, they take over that space, and they're a very strong presence in the library every Wednesday morning. And they sew and make, and they practice their English, and they support each other, they translate for each other, and there are people that come into the group that can support with complex, difficult questions and needs, and signpost them to other organisations where they can get more help. Through getting to know the women and joining in with the group and talking to them about what could we do as a service to support them, we then developed a volunteering scheme for the women to join in, and they became stock volunteers, and again they very much supported each other. They were buddied up to be able to help each other with they were buddied up with a member of staff, but also with each other to make them feel more comfortable. Some of them put together book displays, and they also said that they would really like some kind of informal English class. So we managed to set up a conversation cafe in the library that was run by a volunteer. And we also gave them an opportunity to share books or poems or music from their culture, and also to share food, which was always a really big hit. So they've been a very good partner for us, and they've informed us in the way that we deliver things and the kinds of things that we deliver. And when we publicly declared that we wanted to become a library of sanctuary, they were so keen to support us, and we knew we had to get the message out to the public generally, and that there would be questions around, well, what is that? So we posed in Refugee Week in 2019, we got the conversation going with some workshops about, what is this Library of Sanctuary? What does that look like? What does it mean? Do you think this library offers sanctuary? And if we do, how do we do that? What do we do that makes you feel it's a place of safety? And how can we improve that offer? And we did it in different settings. We did a facilitator workshop with the women. We did some outreach at a central location in Brighton and Hove. And we did an interactive notice board in one of our libraries so that we could get different people's comments. And that really helped us to get an understanding of what people were feeling about it, but also everybody seemed to be on our side and could understand why we were doing it. And at the end of the facilitated workshop with the women, the network, they decided that they were going to make us a Library of Sanctuary banner, and that we would definitely be able to get our library of sanctuary status, and they would present it to us on the day that we found out. So it was a really positive experience. The other thing is we were very aware that we needed to have staff training, and we commissioned 2 local sanctuary projects to organise bespoke training for our staff and to deliver it, and that helped for staff to understand why we were focusing on this work, and also yeah, it gave staff a better understanding, and with that understanding came there was empathy, and everybody got behind that work. And as part of the training, we looked at our building to see how we could make it more welcoming. So on the little video, there was an image of the welcome window that we had put in lockdown, with different languages on it. You would have hopefully noticed there was the orange heart with forgotten what's on there. We support refugees, and that we were asked at the City of Sanctuary conference to print that out, and together with refugees. Sorry, it's the orange love heart together with refugees, to hold it up at the conference, and a photograph was taken. So we printed out many of these, and we have put them in the entrance of the library, outward facing. We're declaring to everybody that we want people to come into our building, and we support sanctuary seekers, and on every service point in the library as well. So we're sending out a very clear and concise message to the public. Sarah, can I show another bit of a video or not?
Yes, you can. Yeah, I'm just sort of watching time, but yeah, please do show the next bit of the video.
Okay. So there is so much work that we've done, but we did make a little film with one of the women from the network, so I would like to show some of that. We can't show it all, but Faten from the Network of International Women, she volunteers with us. She helped to create the Library of Sanctuary banner, and yeah, I'd just like to show you a little bit of the clip. So. Oh. Sorry about that.
My name is Faten AlSaleh. I am from Syria. I am a lawyer. I have a practicing 27 years. I have been here in Brighton since 2018. I am here with my son and his family. When I was arrived to Brighton, there is a organization, Voice and Exile. This organization responsible about us, about refugees. So they tell me there is a group, network of international women, meeting in library. So I was very happy because I love the library. When I came to here the first time, I feel I am a stranger. So after 2 years or 2.5 years now, I like the library, and I am comfortable here in library. I am very happy because work as a volunteer. The staff very helpful, and show me how they work in library.
And you helped to make the Library of Sanctuary banner, didn't you?
Yes, yes. We make. I helped to make like this one with my group.
What books do you like to read?
Because I am a lawyer, I like a crime book. But I find a lot of book in Arabic here, and I don't find for a Syrian author or writing a poem from Syria.
Would you be interested in helping us and suggesting authors and poets?
Yes, yes. I told my family.
Okay, there will be a link to the film if anybody wants to watch it further. But so, I mean, that's great for us that Faten has given us that feedback. Yes, we've got Arabic books, but we haven't got any by Syrian writers or poets. So, you know, we'll be working with her and some of the women from the network and their families, family members, to try and you know, refresh our books in other languages. And finally, I'd just like to say that we've always been a venue for cultural events and performances. And in October, just gone for Libraries Week, we had a global music afternoon, and we had performances from musicians who are based in the Southeast but have arrived in England seeking sanctuary. And it was an amazing event. We had over 100 people attend. Some of the performers spoke about their experience before they started performing of being put into prison and tortured for playing the music they were about to play. Another spoke about you know, dedicating his performance to people who were on that really difficult road at the moment and seeking sanctuary. So there was some clips at the beginning of the musicians and the performance, and again, we will be able to make that film of that global music event available to everybody, and we're already planning our next one. So that's a tiny snippet. I know I've gone way over time, so I apologise.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Nora. And you know, it's just fascinating to hear all the things that you've done and how, you know, I think because you've been doing it for such a long time now, how embedded it is. I mean, in terms of that embed, learn and share, I think you really, obviously you've shared as well, and it's really embedded within your service, and I think that's really powerful and just lovely to have those films. So thank you so much for sharing those. I'm going to move us on now to our final speaker, Charlotte Hyam from Bolton Libraries, who will talk about her experience of becoming a library of sanctuary. So over to you, Charlotte.
Hiya, I'm Charlotte Hyam from Bolton Libraries Museum Service. We're a joint service. We've not been library sanctuary for that long, just this past year that we were actually given the certificate. So I'll turn my screen off in case it stops the quality of the video. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. Lovely. Right. So I'm going to talk about some of the events and activities we have offered as part of the Library Sanctuary programme and what we do to make our service as welcoming and inclusive as possible. So Bolton Library and Museum Service is proud to be officially recognised as a Library Museum of Sanctuary, where sanctuary seekers know that is a safe and welcoming space. Next slide, please. Training gave staff an understanding of the different type of migrants, including economic migrants, asylum seekers and refugees. Staff gained an insight into the differing backgrounds and experiences that people may have had prior to arriving in the country, and also knowledge of the difficulties that they'd have experienced. Many common myths were debunked, such as that sanctuary seekers automatically get a house or money and they willingly leave their country for a better life in the UK. The ESOL class in French gave staff the perspective of a student from another country and reminded them of useful tactics in customer interaction, such as talking slowly, repetition, gestures, and positive feedback. Next slide, please. We work with a number of partners, including Bolton City of Sanctuary, BRASS, which stands for Befriending Refugees and Asylum Seekers, Bolton Destitution Project, Bolton College, Bolton University, and Precious Gems. All promote our services to their users, and Bolton City of Sanctuary and Precious Gems especially support and attend our targeted events. Next slide. A welcome event was held in one of our branch libraries that has a high demographic of a wide range of ethnicities. As well as showing what High Street Library had to offer in terms of free loanable books, computer access, etc., a PS4 and games were provided for children to use. It's mainly boys aged 8 to 16 who use the games. The computer games especially encourages interaction and provides children and teenagers the means to make new friends. One 12-year-old boy from Africa said he'd made friends on his first day at the library playing FIFA. At the welcome event, a short questionnaire was handed out, which listed some possible future events and allowed people to register the level of interest in these. And it also gave them the opportunity to propose their own ideas. Some of these ideas included a family games day, with bingo being a particular favourite as it can be enjoyed by all. Games with a language aspect were also bought, such as Articulate and 5-second rule. We found games promote interaction and integration. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Sorry, I'm having a bit of a problem moving it on. Sorry.
Sorry. Right, it's okay. Right, thanks. The Walk, Talk and Tea event allowed sanctuary seekers to discover the town centre and places of interest and places that may be useful to them, such as the Citizens Advice Bureau, the Town Hall's one-stop shop, etc. The walk was followed by tea and cake in the library. Next slide, please. The Feast of Hope was part of the Ripples of Hope Festival, which creates space for people to come together in meaningful ways. The event allowed the groups to connect with one another, and the concept of breaking bread and cultural expression of food was central to this. Many of the attendees sold tablecloths to use at the event from resources we'd provided. Next slide, please. Britannia Rumba are a Congolese band, and this was part of the Library Sanctuary programme of welcome events. The music event was well attended with a good atmosphere and lots of dancing. Again, it was a good way to welcome people into the building and to feel part of the Bolton community. Next slide, please. The museum, which is housed on the floor above the library, had a Christmas in Bolton exhibition, and one ESOL student was particularly interested in what goes into mince pie, as it was something they had never heard of or tasted. So we decided to have a small event with mince pies as part of the refreshments. Next slide, please. The Teddy Bears Picnic was in partnership with Bolton City of Sanctuary. The library hosted a Teddy Bears Picnic, which was a shared meal event to welcome families from asylum and refugee communities into the building. Blankets and cushions were placed on the floor, and children were given books and were read stories. This was so well received, we'll be having another Christmas-themed Teddy Bears Picnic on the 22nd of December. Next slide, please. We offer tours of the library and museum, which is a good way of introducing sanctuary seekers to the building and showing them what we have to offer. Hopefully by coming on a tour with a group, this will make it less daunting for them in future visits when visiting on their own or with their families. Hopefully it will encourage them to make use of the library and museum services, such as free loanable books, including ESOL stock, free computer use and Wi-Fi, or just a quiet space where they'll feel welcome and feel safe. There are a number of volunteer roles, including visitor volunteers and digital helpers, where volunteers help people with low or no computer knowledge to gain skills. This could help gain confidence for the volunteers to develop new skills, gain experience and improve career prospects, and also to feel more integrated into the Bolton community. There are a wide range of regular activities and events to join, such as knit and natter, crafts, card making, etc., plus children's activities such as toddler tales and arty babies during the week, and more during school holidays and weekends, all of which are free, fully inclusive and very welcoming. Next slide, please. The Bolton City Sanctuary Ladies Writing Group meets once a week in the library, and several read their poetry at the Feast of Hope event. We offer free printing of asylum application documents, otherwise it will be 10 pence per sheet, and this can soon mount up. We provide a printed list of all the ESOL providers in Bolton. We've held a number of exhibitions and displays from refugee and asylum seeker groups. This is important as it allows them to feel part of Bolton and the community. By having displays of Refugee Week and International Mother Language Day, we help raise awareness of sanctuary seekers. We continue to look at ways we can improve our service and are currently developing an area of the library for ESOL students and sanctuary seekers with accessible language books and providing information of the various conversation cafes, language classes and available help in Bolton. Next slide, please. This is a quote from one of our library users, which highlights the importance of being a place of inclusion and sanctuary. Just give me a few seconds to read that. So please do get in touch with me if you want any more information on anything I've spoken about. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. That's great. Thank you. And I love that quote to end with. That's a brilliant quote. So thank you so much for both to Nora and Charlotte for sharing their experiences. I think it just brings it alive when we hear from actual libraries. We've got a few minutes for questions, just about 11 minutes for questions. So I think, John, you've just put a question in the chat. Do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, hi. Thanks everybody, and thanks for the event. It's really encouraging after 2 years to see this, how it's come on and how good everything looks, and how much work people have put into it. This is brilliant. Very early on, we were a bit apprehensive about political resistance because, you know, there is a lot of media coverage which we've heard about hostile environment isn't just in Westminster, it can be anywhere. And just wondered if anybody encountered political reluctance, shall we say, or resistance from politicians or from strategic managers in the local authority, and if so, how did you tackle that? How did you handle that to be able to progress the work? So that was what I was thinking.
Nora, did you experience any of that?
Not particularly. I mean, we are a city of sanctuaries, so, you know, the local authority is on board with this kind of debate. Obviously, you know, we have our own Twitter account and we manage that account. There are some things that I know we can't retweet. It just is pushing something too far, but there is a lot that we can engage with and support. And ultimately, I think if you're a city of sanctuary, if you're a library of sanctuary, whatever it is political. It is a political statement. So you can't shy away from that. You might have a few fights on your hands, but I think ultimately, yeah, I haven't encountered any resistance.
Well, I wouldn't have expected it in Brighton, really. But yeah, it does remind us that libraries work for political bodies. We are not neutral. We might try to be independent, but we're not neutral, and we are in the middle of a political environment. So that's good, but I wouldn't have expected it in Brighton.
Colleen, do you want to add anything there?
I think Nora's really hit the nail on the head there, that if you are in a city of sanctuary, it can be quite hard to face that political opposition. But I think even a strongly opposing senior management or political structure that you might be working in, nobody can really argue against the idea of welcome. And I think it's really important to start from that very simple concept, you know, which is about library being welcoming for all, and being quite careful that all of your activities aren't just aimed at people seeking sanctuary, but they're aimed at the whole community, but you're working very hard to reduce the barriers for that particularly vulnerable group and other similar groups. So I can't give you an example of where there has been political opposition, but the more schools or libraries or universities and local authorities, you know, that are involved in the City of Sanctuary movement within a community or a city or a borough, the easier it gets. So you might have a school or you might have your local university who would kind of give you that backup support really in your efforts to persuade. And, you know, Nora's right, it does become political. It has been politicized, you know, I think by some politicians, but it doesn't have to be, because it is a basic welcome, cohesive communities. And it's very difficult for anybody to argue, you know, against that beautiful vision, really.
Thanks, Colleen. And actually, Rachel's got a kind of linked question, which is about the community. Rachel, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Hi, yeah, sure. I'm here from Lewisham Libraries. So I'm interested in how these kind of events could help to integrate the people seeking sanctuary with the rest of the community. So research shows that cultural events are really good, especially music and dancing are really good ways to help people to bond. So I just wondered how many other people from your library users got involved in the different events that you held, and whether any of them were helping out, or whether, because sometimes it's easy to, you know, you've got your refugees in one group and then the rest of the library in another group. Was there much integration?
Can I ask Charlotte to go first for that one? Oh, we've lost Charlotte. But Nora, do you want to go then?
Yeah, I mean, really what Colleen was saying about, you know, a lot of our cultural events or workshops or activities are not exclusively for sanctuary seekers. The focus might be on, you know, supporting them and helping them to integrate, but actually it's for everyone to enjoy and for everyone to get something from. The global music event, it was a real mix of people who definitely were supporters of sanctuary seekers. They weren't seekers themselves, but and people who were from that community that came, but also it was just regular customers that love music or happened to be in the building. Because we do a lot of our stuff on the ground floor in the public space. We don't tuck it away where, you know, you can access if you want to. We want to kind of give people the opportunity that mightn't have wouldn't come to something like that, to just have a taste of it and then hopefully join in and listen. So I think ultimately there hasn't been resistance from customers or questioning on why we're focusing on this piece of work. A lot of them are very understanding and very supportive. So, you know, it's great for people to share different cultures and to be given that platform to be able to do it. So for us, it's been very positive.
Thank you, Nora. One question that I've seen coming through the chat from many people is around training and staff training, and that's come up a few times. Yeah, it was interesting that people have used different ways of staff training. I don't know if you want to comment, John and Colleen particularly. Do you want to comment on staff training? We start with John.
Yeah.
You go first, John.
Okay, thanks, Colleen. Yeah, I've worked with libraries that have worked with their local City of Sanctuary group or other groups within the community who offer training. I've seen some brilliant examples from different City of Sanctuary groups. The Manchester one particularly, I think, struck me. I'm slightly embarrassed to say this, but the network that I coordinate also offers training. So I've actually running training courses, for example, for Birmingham and Newcastle libraries. So I hate looking like I'm advertising because I'm not. But if anyone were interested or even just wanted to talk about what training might involve, you got my email address earlier on. Do get in touch.
Thanks, John.
And of course, John is a great trainer because he's, you know, been so deeply embedded in libraries of sanctuary. But I think your best person to learn from is your library user who has experience of seeking sanctuary themselves, because they're the very, very best person that you can ask, you know, what are the barriers? What can we do to overcome those barriers? You know, so consulting people seeking sanctuary who are already using your library, and through your local City of Sanctuary group or other refugee supporting organisation who will be working with people seeking sanctuary, so that you can, you know, work with them directly to actually find out what does your library need to break down those barriers is a key thing. And, you know, your local Red Cross refugee services or refugee action group, you know, will all be able to provide you with a very general awareness training around the hostile environment, and, you know, around myth busting, and, you know, the telling stories. I would also recommend that you actually follow City of Sanctuary Twitter account, and you know, the IMEX account as well, which does connect you with lots of stories and lots of information, really, that raises awareness and helps you understand the issues.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you. I'm just going to pick up one last question, because we're on where we've got a minute left, but it's a couple of libraries have asked around breaking down barriers around library membership, asking for ID, etc. And I think that, Nora, you in Brighton Hove, you don't ask for any ID, is that right?
Yeah, we haven't for a number of years, so we don't ask for ID for anybody to join the library. If they haven't got an address, we ask them for their name, and we need a name and address. If they haven't got an address, we put the library address. We don't do a light touch membership. It's a full membership for everyone. And some people come with their documents, and obviously others don't. And some haven't got them. So we don't want those barriers in the way, because what's going to happen? We might lose some books. We're always losing books, people, you know, so we just try as best as we can to make it as easy as possible for people. We have as well the Migrant Welcome Project work with us. They bring in groups of people who are new to the city, and we do a tour of the library. We explain what's on offer, what they can access. We listen to them in terms of, you know, what is it that they need? Can we provide that? And then we sign them up to the library.
Thank you. And actually, there are loads of people in the chat who are saying how they've overcome that as well. So it's worth having a look at the chat for lots of ideas in there as well. And we will save the chat and send that out as well, because I think some people, I do love it when people answer each other's questions in chat. I think it's brilliant. But we've come to the end of our time now, so I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of our speakers today, to Ashley Beckett, who had to leave sadly, and to Nora, and to Charlotte, and to John, and also to Colleen Malloy, who's just retired from being Cities of Sanctuary and Libraries of Sanctuary lead, and she's been an inspirational partner for us. So thank you, Colleen, and good luck in your future life. And yeah, so just say thank you for all of you. Thanks so much to everyone who's participated today. Yeah, we'll send out obviously we'll save the recording, and we'll send out the chat to you after.